who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Mother's Justice Show right here on 1150 AM KKNW. I am your host, Omari Salisbury, known on the streets of the Central District as the Big O. Man, well, we've actually got a real timely show for you here today. It wasn't one that we expected when we booked this guest that we have here today, who's actually Gregory Joseph, a political strategist and former communications director for the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. Unfortunately, I say timely, in relation to yesterday's mass shooting at the Seattle Center at the Bite of Seattle, which has now left 3 people dead, injured 5 other people, and man, it's traumatized the whole city. And wow, we're really a city still in shock. There was a press conference last night with Mayor Wilson and the Deputy Chief, Tyrone Davis, and then today at City Hall, again with Mayor Wilson and Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes. As a city, we're trying to grapple with what just happened, and for people who are actually in parts of communities where the suspect in custody is from, it's a whole other ripples there as well. Sorry to introduce you on such a doom and gloom, but again, welcoming here to the studio today, Gregory Joseph, political strategist and former communications director at Alliance for Gun Responsibility. Welcome to the Mother's Justice Show.
Thank you for having me, I appreciate it. I know it's a very sad day for the city of New Orleans and
Seattle.
Sorry,
I know you from New Orleans.
For the city of Seattle, and thoughts and obviously prayers go out to all of the people who were impacted by the Seattle yesterday. It's a horrific event, and I'm glad we have the opportunity to come here and talk it over and see if we could come with some solutions and maybe a step forward for the people.
Right, and as somebody who used to be in that space and is still in that space, but definitely, I mean, you were there at the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, a nonpartisan organization who's really committed to responsible gun ownership. But being in that space, you see a lot of trends and data and what's happening here. Man, what do you see happening in Seattle?
Well, I see what's happening in Seattle, pretty much what's happening across the country. Is that we have an influx of guns, too many guns, too lax regulations, too lax laws, partly for the Trump administration cutting budgets, cutting staff for the ATF and enforcement. That leads to an influx of guns. We have some neighboring states with really lax gun laws, which flood our communities with cheap and affordable guns for neighborhood kids to get their hands on. And so we see that playing out across the country. We have a lack of economic opportunities for our young people. We don't have jobs. We don't have summers for them to do something productive. We see budget cuts in terms of health care, in terms of education. All of this is just a circular, goes downhill and just creates this perfect storm where violence becomes one of the only options in neighborhoods. So it's not just a gun violence prevention solution. This is just one of the boxes. We need to reform our education system. We need to create economic opportunities. We need better health care. We need better health outcomes, nutrition services, and so forth. We were just talking before the show, and it is that food deserts become a haven for gun violence. That shouldn't be the way. So we have a whole bunch of things that we need to get accomplished, and we're way beyond the starting point to get those addressed.
Right now, Seattle is considered a very progressive city, and a city that likes to say that it puts its budget where its values are. And here in the city, what do you see as? I know you talked about some broader things, which you just said there. You touched on a lot of them, but like drill down on. What are some solutions when it comes around this gun violence in the region? So are you saying that there needs to be more, and I guess every point that you just said needs to be funded?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that all our city leaders need to start addressing the root causes of this violence. So we take it from the gun perspective. One easy thing or one simple solution that we can do is we can institute safe storage. We can fund safe storage programs so we can give lock boxes and gun safes to gun owners in the city of Seattle. The King County office has some available funds for safe storage. There was a massive cut from the statewide office, but we'd love to be able to get that restored. We'd love to have our city leaders start talking to our state leaders and making sure that happens. So there's the first step that we can start doing. We heard earlier today that we have some great organizations like Community Passageways that are on the ground right now working in the community where the suspect is from to counsel families and also to interrupt and disrupt any future violence. So getting those resources on the street so people can actually tangibly touch them is a good first step. In terms of other steps, we've been having discussions here in the city about universal free lunches for children, and it's been a volleyball. We can't have children without lunch, but with guns in anywhere, especially in Seattle. So let's address that. Let's make sure that our children are fed during the school year, during the summer. It's the least that we can do as a progressive, prosperous city and state like Seattle. So that's one way. Earlier this summer, we instituted some high school jobs for teenagers that were well-paying. We need to increase those opportunities for next summer and really work to make sure that our students have some sort of jobs in the summer so they can be somewhere productive. And with education, I mean, there's never anything you can't do with education. More teachers, more programs, more extracurricular activities, more advanced placement. We need to reinvest in our kids' educations and our kids' economic futures and make sure that our guns are locked and safely stored away, and our city leaders can be advocating for all three of those.
Right. And where does government step back and community step in regards to this issue? I
think everybody needs to step forward. I think this is a whole solution. Government, community, the religious community, ethnic communities and so forth. I don't think this is a whole body problem. So we need every doctor with every specialty to be at the table. So the community and government and law enforcement and the religious community and all the other interest groups need to come together and start having some conversations and find out who's going to start doing the work. It can't be all done by law enforcement, can't be all done by government, can't be all done by community, but together, building that really strong partnership, we might be able to see some progress.
Have you seen any cities where that formulation has worked or started to come together, where you might have law enforcement, government, and community?
I think the first place I look at is Baltimore. And what Mayor Brandon Scott has been doing on the ground since the violence in Freddie Gray back in, during the COVID years, and what he has done with violence interruption and making the community response from the mayor's office and the community response be one and the same. And you've seen gun violence go down dramatically in the city of Baltimore. And I know that he has spoken to a lot of mayors, especially African-American mayors across this country, about their violence reduction strategies. I think being helpful in the backyard of Johns Hopkins, which is one of the leading gun violence research organizations in the world, helps. But what Brandon Scott's doing in Baltimore has been really, really impressive. I think the association that Mandani's putting together in New York, bringing a community that has not really been heard about gun violence and other communities that have been overlooked, and putting low-income and middle-income New Yorkers at the top of the agenda and making sure that their lives are the ones that he is working every day to improve is also helpful. And so we'll see exactly what happens in Los Angeles with a new mayor that's coming around the bend. But I would look at Baltimore if I was going to look at any gun violence prevention strategies that might be or could be implemented in a city like Seattle.
Right. And Seattle invests a lot of money. I do know one thing is that, covering City Hall for many, many years, there's lots of government. There's lots of community groups and nonprofits that actually do sit at the table. They're, well funded. Of course, there could always be more funding. Council Executive Zahalai in the State of a County address said that they're committing another $5 million, which he said is not enough, but $5 million into the Regional Office of Gun Violence Prevention. This is a city where, at least at that level, at the downtown level, I mean, clearly not everybody, but a lot of what people would consider the right people are at the table. We've law enforcement. We've had Chief Barnes on, a few times, where he said that he's investing time with community groups, churches, clergy, organizations, everything else. It just seems like the youth factor. It's a lot of demographics that are no longer as violent as it used to be. And it's like in our city and probably across the country, man, it's really, really trickling down to youth. Chief Barnes said that last year there was a 63% increase in crimes committed between juveniles aged 13 to 17.
Yeah, and that is depressing, but not very shocking either. I think we see these opportunities for teenagers being dwindling away. And let's also look at the other side of the equation, their families too, their parents who are most likely overworked and most likely underpaid and not probably at the home because they're working so much because it's so unaffordable in this country and everything is just, exploding in cost. So you have a lack of parents there because they're just trying to keep the lights on and food on the table and working all the time. So you have that leaving their lives. And then you have a government that aren't really looking out for them the same way they're looking out for, say, like Elon Musk, and they're cutting SNAP benefits. I mean, we don't want to feed children in this country that we're going to cut SNAP benefits, but then we're going to give $14 billion for some, government contract to build more missiles that are just going to go out and destroy other people's lives. So it's a government that's turned its back on young people as well. And that's a perfect storm. So, the kids have nowhere else to turn. There's no one at home because their parents are working, as much as they possibly can because everything is so expensive. Government's looking for other people and they don't really care. And so it's just like, where do you turn to? And unfortunately, you turn to the streets, and what's in the streets is violence.
Just got a text message here. It says one victim was a national from Mexico who was an officer there. He dove to cover his disabled child and got killed. One 56-year-old woman visiting from Virginia, and then a former Rainier Beach student. And it says here, and man, they did this with officers right in plain sight. These kids don't care anymore. Text message I just got here. So look at 2 of the 3 deceased. I mean, one was a foreign national, and the other one's a tourist.
That's also, you never want to see anyone being harmed in your city, but you especially don't want to see your citizens or your visitors being harmed in your city. So that covers the gamut. And yeah, it is. I mean, the kids out there who, we used to, they just don't give a blank. And there is a lack of accountability that needs to be restored. But we also need to understand that it's not entirely the child's fault. This is...
Well, yeah, and that's, I guess a good question for you. And you've touched on a lot of it as far as solving the root causes. But it's like, how do we solve the root causes of gun violence while addressing the symptoms?
Yeah. Right. Well, the symptoms are there. We don't need to recognize the symptoms because as far as I'm concerned, the symptoms are as plain as day because they've been in our face for the last 30 years. So we should be well versed in what the symptoms are. And I think instead of identifying the symptoms, since it's old hat, we should start working on how we're going to remedy. The remedies are what we need to do. There's always a lot of talk. And there's talk. But we never really see any action. And what we need to see are actions. We need to see what the policies are going to be. We need to see the mayor lead the council lead the mayor's office, conversations with the governor, conversations with the county executive. But now solutions and policies need to be placed on the table. Dollars need to be allocated to to organizations that are doing the work of CVI in the community. All of these things need to be lined up. Enough talk. We need to start, we should have a 5-point plan by the end of the day that has been discussed between the city council and the mayor's office and all the other interested parties, because we don't need to gather any facts. We know what's happening. We know what was happening too. We know the communities that it's happening in. We know the children who are impacted. Let's get to work.
Yeah, I hear you on that. In Washington State, and especially King County Public Health and those offices there, I mean, the big data, when they implemented their big data program, years ago, the crazy thing is that the majority of all this violent crime that's happening in King County comes down to less than 100 people.
Yeah, sometimes it does seem overwhelming, when you look at it. But it's concentrated in a few communities, in a few neighborhoods. People always know where the violence is, and it's when the violence leaves those places where the violence is and end up in a place like Seattle Center.
Unfortunately, I think that's where we're going to see some action here. We'll see what face that takes, but it's going to see some action here of where whenever violence leaves, the
hood.
The hood is where you get action. You see up there in Aurora, these guys blocked the street, the city council, in 1 week they gathered. I'd never seen a press conference like that before, where you had the mayor, the city council, the chief of police, the city attorney, and even the SDOT director all there saying like, no, you know what, we're taking swift action here. I asked at that same press conference, I said, I've never seen this before. When is this going to happen for what's going on in South Seattle in the Central District? And, I was reassured by everybody there that like, no, we feel the same way about everything. We'll see. But like this right here, I think might precipitate some act. I always said we don't know what that action is going to look like. It might be down there in the State House. The state of Washington is one of two states in the country that have very unique juvenile laws, where in a lot of cases a juvenile has to be arrested 5 times before they can be confined. We're one of the few states, that like that. So you might see changes down there. I'm pretty sure that somewhere, at least on the legislature level down in Olympia, we're going to see some kind of change because this act here and it's happened at the Seattle Center. Investment, I don't know.
Well, you're not going to get any far without investment. Investment is important. Everything else is just words. So we can sit around here and think about philosophically what we'd like to happen, but until you put dollars behind those actions, there's not going to be any actions. Yeah, unfortunately, the response times and government response is definitely changes per the income level of neighborhoods. When you start getting into the upper income levels of neighborhoods, you start getting police and government that are responsive to you. This is not a problem that needs to be solved at Seattle Center. The conversation about having cameras or how come there are no cameras at Seattle Center is not going to prevent another 15-year-old kid from doing what they did. All right, that problem starts in that community, in that neighborhood, with all of the issues that I mentioned earlier in the start of the segment. So it's not just, if we had cameras here, everything would be good. No, because that kid doesn't live here in Seattle Center. He lives in a neighborhood, and that neighborhood is not being looked at by government, by law enforcement, by anyone besides maybe the community leaders who are trying very hard with no resources to keep the neighborhood together and doing the best that they can. But we need to invest in these neighborhoods and stop looking for superficial things like cameras are going to be the day to save the day. No. What's going on in those schools, in those communities? Are those community organizations fully funded? Are those schools fully funded? You have after-school programs. You have mentorships. You have job opportunities. That's what these neighborhoods need. And until you start providing that in those neighborhoods, cameras aren't going to change anything. Tough talk, a whole bunch of elected officials getting 5 minutes on the mic like it's a freestyle rap contest. It ain't going to change anything until you start making those investments in those neighborhoods with those kids.
Why is investment so reluctant, in your opinion?
Why? Well, I think there's
because like if you do the math, every homicide, they said that a homicide costs about $1 million.
Yeah, I mean,
when, you take this and court and trials and everything else, and so I mean, there's actually, just for people who are into dollars and cents and nothing else, that it makes sense to invest as opposed to the actual cost associated with a homicide.
There is a reluctancy to invest in communities of color across this country, not just here in Seattle. And when I mean invest, I mean fully investments, not, we'll cut a ribbon on an open space or a new park, or here's a statue of a leader that's a person of color, but real investments to bring jobs, to reinsure that the education system is strong, to make sure that transportation hubs are just as prevalent and just as maintained and well-kept are in the wealthy neighborhoods. There is always a reluctance to do this in these communities. What we need are leaders who defy that reluctance. All it takes are the leaders to do so. The money is there. We're not broke as a city or a state or even as a country. The money is there. The will isn't. And we have elected officials who are people of color, and they need to start making sure that these neighborhoods are no longer going to be left behind. But that is the only will. It is there. It's all you need, or the leadership to do it. We were talking about Bruce the other day, and Bruce might not have been the greatest mayor out there, but he was a leader. And when he came into a room, he knew where he wanted to lead the people in the room. We now need to have our leaders lead us to these communities, to reinforce them, to bring them back some new life, and to show that the government actually cares about the people who live in some of the worst conditions in the city. Or even if they're not living in some of the worst conditions in the city, they still deserve a government that works for them and tries to improve the lives of them and their children.
Yeah, Council Executive Zahalai, years ago, this was in 2020 or early 2021, he came on the Morning Update show. He wrote an op-ed in the Seattle Times, and he said that, the blueprint, COVID-19, the response to COVID-19 created a blueprint of how to respond to gun violence, that where when the will is there, then all of a sudden, when everybody is on board, the resources show up, the innovation shows up, and all of those things. And that was his pushback then. It's like, man, let's treat gun violence how we treated COVID-19, and not a piecemeal response, but an all-of-government response. It's
got to be a whole-body response. There's no doubt about it. You just can't do one piece of it because it's a whole system problem. And I think that's a very good analogy to bring COVID in, because we're all on the same page when it came to COVID. We all weren't saying one thing or saying the other thing. We're all just like, hey, let's stop the spread of this. Let's get healthy. If it means we have to stay at home or close our businesses or whatever we do, but we're all on the same page. And I think we're all on the same page about gun violence. I don't think there's somebody out there saying, hey, yeah, we want more gun violence. We're all on the same page that gun violence is preventable, and we need to do everything in our possible power to prevent it. And we all need to come together, find out what that next page is, and then implement it. Because, again, it's been too long for just conversations and talk. And, yes, I think that COVID analogy is great because, if we can get the people united behind this, then we might be able to see some progress, because we all know that all Americans, majority of Americans, want gun control, want the end of preventable gun violence. And so we're here. Let's do it.
All right. We're sitting here talking to Gregory Joseph, political strategist and former communications director for the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. We're going to take our first break right here. Got a few other topics we're discussing today as well. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community.
Miss a show on KKNW? Check out 1150kknw.com for podcasts of many of our programs. That's 1150kknw.com.
Lean on me when you're not strong.
All right, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show right here at 1150 AM KKNW. And man, you know, the music is what's needed today, man. Well, lean on me. You know, see, the Bite of Seattle is, it's an institution in the city. And I think that this incident occurring there has definitely impacted people a lot more than, because unfortunately shootings happen here all the time. People are killed here all the time. There's mass shootings that occur, but right there at the Seattle Center, a place that means a lot to people, you know, from Seattle and people who visit here. It's a bit funky.
Yeah, no, you never want to have any violence anywhere, but at these annual events that mean so much to not just the people in the city of Seattle, but the whole region as well. People look forward to this all year round. I think last year they almost threw 300,000 people. It was a nice weekend. Food, music, community. And for this to be marred like this really sends a chill down people's backs. And it really questions whether or not they want to participate in other public events in the city when they know that at any moment something absolutely horrible can happen.
Yeah. One of the things you talked about when we're mentioning some of this perfect storm in community is the universal free meals program. And how important you feel that is. You want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
You ever try to do anything, focus, concentrate on an empty stomach? It's impossible. You know, I was coming over here and I was hungry. I had to stop at a place just to get a sandwich because I didn't want to come on the air and talk with my stomach rumbling because I wouldn't be able to gather my thoughts. Imagine if you're a 13-year-old kid, you wake up in the morning, you go downstairs, or you go into the kitchen, and there's nothing there, and it hasn't been anything there for the whole week. Now, what you're supposed to do is go sit in the classroom and learn like every other kid who had breakfast? It doesn't really make any sense. We are a very prosperous country and nation. We spend billions of dollars on things that have nothing to do with the well-being and health of our citizens, and we need to change that. We give money to defense contractors to build bombs to drop in Iran and to drop in Russia. And then we have 49 million children who are living in poverty, or 15 million children living in poverty. How is that even possible? So yes, free meals, access to affordable and free universal meals year round, because, you know, the fridge doesn't get filled in the summer just because school's out, is the least we can do for our children. And I think if we do that, then we begin to start seeing what benefits that does. And then we'll start to think about, this is not an easy fix, but if we're addressing the root cause of this hunger, we can start addressing some of the other things that lead to gun violence. But yes, I think, and we're having this debate here in the city of New Orleans. I think it's now been delayed, the universal lunch program. But I really hope that people really start thinking about what we see here in this violence and how we think about stopping it, providing free meals for our young people is a step towards ending gun violence.
Right. And on that note, when we talk about the free meals program, I think that, at least in my perspective and talking to a lot of people and actually talking to Councilmember Hollingsworth, is that right now 70% of all the schools south of I-90 are already qualified. So basically for federal subsidy for free meals is that 40% of the school's population has to be below economic threshold. Washington State wanted to lower it down to even 30%, something like that, in that threshold. And I think that the big debate is really actually one of the main things that you brought up here is funding for food when school is out, funding for food during the summer, during breaks, and things like that.
It needs to be year-round.
Right. And so the majority of schools that have a population of hungry students they're getting their free meals, and this debate, it just got really weird, but because no one at all is saying that kids shouldn't have. Well, first of all, the majority of all kids that qualify for a free meal in Seattle Public Schools are getting free meals. They've been getting it for years. And I think that when the word all came out, and then you've got people who are like, well, okay, before it goes everywhere, even to a school that might not be experiencing, their economics means that everybody is already getting a meal. But before we do that, let's go and address the food desert. So the Safeway out there on the south end, that's the number one redemption spot in the state for SNAP and also for the city of Seattle Fresh Bucks. So it's like guys know where the hungry people are at. And it's like it's been kind of dangled to be able to make an argument because there might be, but I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of parents up in arms in very affluent neighborhoods in Seattle saying, where's our free school lunch? Seattle is the type of city where, people are like, yeah, other people need it. But they've been able to throw the word all out and really get everybody fighting over that, where it seems like the intention of Hollingsworth and Strauss is to be like, okay, I see this here for all. The majority of the kids who are in need are getting fed, but like before we jump all the way into all, let's find a way to fund kids for the summer and for the breaks. And it's turned into something wild, man. Into like, hey, these people don't want nobody to have no food. These people don't want to, it's the media. I'm part of the media as well, but you know what I'm saying?
It's unfortunate that, these well-meaning programs that will serve people in need always come down to these arguments and these fights and these miscommunications. And it's something so simple. I don't know why there needs to be a conversation between all and some. All right. It's not as if we don't have the resources to provide it for all. Again, this is what I mean by the will. All right. We got the money to do this. All right. End the story. So do you want to have kids fed year round, or do you not? Do you want to have a little conversation about what all means, or who should, and what income level the parents need, and this, that, and the other thing? Or do you just want to do it? I want to do it. I don't want to sit here and have conversations about who should get it or not. I think all children should wake up in the morning and not have to worry about food.
Yeah, I think the agreement is there and the funding is there, but the funding isn't there for food for all year.
Says who?
Well, according to your budget line downtown.
Oh, well, I'd like to
people,
look. I haven't looked into the budget, but I really like to look into the budget and see who's getting what subsidies and what tax breaks that don't need anything and who shouldn't be getting what. And I want to be able to say that, but I don't believe any budget, numbers, because they always got money for things, that we're like,
they're gonna find some money today. I promise you, the next press conference, or at least by tomorrow, it's gonna be like X numbers. Definitely got to be an impressive number. So it's definitely got to be over $1 million or $2 million or something like that, and it's gonna immediately be found, and it's gonna be immediately pushed somewhere for something. I agree with you 100%. That, what I'm saying, the money, even with a deficit of $200 million, they'll pull $1 million from somewhere.
Got to find it from somewhere.
It'll go. But I am agreeing. I don't think that anybody, and I could agree with that it's like, the meal should be available for all young people. I think Minnesota as a state, like we're talking about just a city here,
the whole state of Minnesota,
the whole state of Minnesota. It's there. They've just made it a priority.
And, there's a way to do this. I mean, we've got all of these great local farms here in the state of Washington. This really can be a cooperative and collaborative event. This doesn't have to be something that we're giving money away to other companies in other states. We can do this and share the wealth and create the revenue and share the revenue here in the state of Washington. And that's just the way that this should work. It is just unfortunate that, we still have politics in some of the most simple areas that seem to throw roadblocks into what should be just easy progress to be made.
Right. Now, keeping it on, it is raw. We gotta figure out a happy topic during the next break here, man. You know what I'm saying? Producers put together a real serious show here. Transitioning here, for our listeners, we're talking to Gregory Joseph, political strategist and former communications director at Alliance for Gun Responsibility. Federal government here. The ICE's presence in Seattle and Tacoma. What effect do you think that it's happening here on local migrants?
I mean, I don't think that people with masks and guns in the street are doing anything helpful to prevent gun violence anywhere in this country. I mean, it's just we have armed agents roaming around, attacking American citizens. It's not as if our children don't see that. If the government is doing it, why can't I do it? It's just a continuing of this mindset that people of color just shouldn't be treated with any respect and dignity, and their lives don't really account for much. We wouldn't do this to any other race of people besides people of color, going around and snatching them up with masks and guns, people who were American citizens and law-abiding citizens. And we, for some reason, not we as a whole, but we as a country, as a government, tolerate this. And it's insane. And to see such a progressive state like Washington not be able to keep this army out of their communities just goes to show you exactly the power of the federal government and how evil and hateful this administration is. And it doesn't really seem to be any end in sight. We've killed now, 7 innocent Americans? And none of them have been held accountable for their actions. It's almost like you have a pass to go out and kill, and not just people of color. Renee and Alex were white people, and those people who killed them are still walking around as if they didn't do anything illegal, because there's no accountability for taking a life of anyone if you're the federal government. So why should some 16-year-old child think that's going to be any different for them? So ICE and the terror they've been causing this country for the last year and a half, it's only just infecting into the streets. I think I saw a story the other day where some people were pulled over by fake ICE agents.
Yeah,
and a woman was assaulted. And this goes on all across the country because, they have masks and they don't wear any identification and they don't have a warrant. So it's almost like anyone, put some lights in the front of your car and you can cosplay as an ICE agent and get your way. Or we have these horrible stories of the detention centers in Texas where we have little girls who are pregnant, pregnancy doesn't just happen like that. No, you have some horrible guards in these detention centers raping little girls. No one seems to be doing anything about that either. The president doesn't open his mouth about ICE. The president cares more about an election that he lost 4 years ago than he cares about anything going on in this country right now. And we don't have enough people on the other side of the aisle, the right side of the aisle, talking about how this is just the worst possible thing that we can be doing to our country, to our children, and to our way of life. And I just hope that Democrats find a way to take the Senate and take the House and bring some semblance and some sanity back to some of the policy areas of this country and maybe get these agents out of at least our blue states. You want to go around in Mississippi and start, arresting Ole Miss football players, be my guest. But, we didn't ask for this.
Speaking of that, you said that winning back the Senate and winning back the House, the primary election day is on August 4th.
Yeah, and it's a hell of an issue just got thrown into the city of Seattle as Election Day comes. Early voting is on their way, so maybe a lot of people already cast their ballots. It's one of the things I don't love about early voting is that, you got to take these things down to the wire sometimes. And I would love to hear what our candidates have to say about the violence that happened at Seattle Center. I'm getting a lot of mail in my apartment, but I have yet to see anyone address gun violence. I'm hearing them talking about the millionaire's tax and standing up for gay rights, but I don't hear anyone talking about what they're going to do about gun violence. So maybe now we'll hear something. Maybe Jamie Peterson and all these other people who are running. I live in his district, so that's why he's top of my mind. We'll start addressing this issue because this issue has now come into his district. But it would be nice if people actually, used and talked about gun violence prevention on the stump because it's affecting the entire city of Seattle, and we really need all of our leaders, state, local, federal, to really be working towards solutions on all of these issues.
Yeah, there's somebody where you're at for the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. That's something you guys track is how, what is someone's platform and their position around guns and gun responsibility?
Yeah, it's part of the interview process when the people are asking for our endorsement is a really solid interview about what they want to do in terms of solutions for gun violence prevention. We do hear that from a lot of incumbents, what they support, what they oppose. A lot of the challengers need a little refresher. They're all for the issue, but they don't know the details because they don't maybe not come from the GVP community. So, but they're definitely there and want to be a leader on that issue, just require a little more education. But yes, I mean, we are the Alliance as an organization can only be as powerful as the people who support it and the government officials who help elect our agenda. And so they hope that they are able to put people in power back in Olympia and back here in Seattle and across the state who can enact a strong gun violence prevention agenda. Also from the community violence intervention space as well. We're seeing too much money being taken out of these programs from a state level. And then we're going to wonder what happens when our communities succumb to more violence. Just because the numbers are going down in the right direction doesn't mean we abandon these programs when they're working. We need to stay with these programs. We need to keep funding these programs. We need to keep driving those numbers down. And I hope the state realizes that as they start to debate the budget next season.
Right. And I mean, it seems to me that almost anybody running for office on either side of the aisle would be for at least a baseline gun responsibility. Right. But it'll be interesting here with an election around the corner. You're right. Some people have already cast their ballots. Is that, I mean, what is the communication going to be of these candidates? This is now an issue that's now front and center, and for a lot of people, this is now leapfrog the millionaire's tax, as you mentioned, and some of these other things of pressing issues, especially if you're from this part of the state and where we're at. And this is the majority of the votes over here. By the way, it seems like maybe politicians or aspiring electeds leaving it with thoughts and prayers and, hey, we need to get more, tougher laws. Me personally, I think that the laws and responsibility is important, but it's a lot of people who are doing crime, man, they're not following the law anyway.
Well, first of all, I believe this issue always should have been top front and center. I don't wake up every day and worry about millionaires being taxed because I'm not a millionaire, so it doesn't really bother me. But I know that every community in the city, in the state, has been affected by gun violence. Every person has been affected by gun violence one way or the other. I was affected by gun violence, and I wasn't at Seattle Center yesterday, but that's in my community, and I can only imagine the horrific scenes that go on there, and you never want to see that in your neighborhood or anywhere that. So this whole millionaire's tax is now, no longer the number one topic of the day. It shouldn't have been in the first place. Safety of our neighborhoods, safety of our families and communities, thriving. That's always that's what we do. That's what we wake up in the morning to do, right? Safe. Keep people safe, not cut people's taxes. So I would hope that, we will recommit to making sure that our communities are prosperous and safe as our number one issue when we wake up.
Yeah, and man, we'll see what happens.
But people need to start talking. It needs to be started talking about, and that was one of the little depressing and upsetting things about both of the press conferences I saw last night's and this morning's, is that there wasn't that there wasn't that recommitment. It was just words
it's really weird, right? When it comes to this issue of gun violence here in Seattle, man, it's really, and I've dealt with a lot of mayors here in council and everything else. Like today, even though, man, I'm glad that everybody showed up in force for the issue there in Aurora. Today was the day to actually have the city attorney, the whole city council there, the chief of police there, the this and that there, and say, you know what, this is not okay in our city anymore. Because that's what happened when they talked about the sex trafficking up there in Aurora. It was a unified front from our government all the way across and said, you know what, the line has been drawn. We're coming for you. We're doing this and that. You know what I'm saying? And that same day, I actually had Chief Barnes and City Attorney Evans on my other show, The Pop-Up, and they were able to say, this is our plan. This is what we've instituted. This is legislation we have going. This is how officers are going to do this. This is how, it's all there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, to see these press conferences is just like they're just regurgitating headlines instead of being like, yo, you know what? This is not all right. This is not okay in our city. This is we're not going to stand for. And then every approach that's there, from the enforcement approach to reinforcing communities, today is the day. And we just haven't gotten that.
Yeah, you're right. And it was such a unifying moment in Aurora where people came together and knew what they needed to do and put aside everything and got it done. And you said there's still a little more time left in this day, but yeah, it's been regrettable that we've had, two major announcements from the city, and we haven't really seen a clear, decisive, unified action plan. We know that they're upset. We know that their hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to the people. I know they love of first responders and all of that. But I think there's someone in Rainier Beach, a mother or a father, or maybe even a teenager who wants to know exactly what are they going to do to make sure that my child is not the one getting the bullet or even getting the gun to put a bullet in somebody else. And you would think after all of these years, after all of this violence, after all of this death and destruction, that there would be a breaking case of glass emergency thing that you would just pull out a scroll and go, okay, now we do this, but it doesn't seem like that it is. And, there are organizations like the one I used to be a part of and still in the city in Seattle that you should be bringing to the table right now and finding out exactly what do we do.
It's interesting you say that, right? It's related in a roundabout kind of way. But there's the organization, I forget the names right now, but they want to close all the streets in Seattle, right? For the most part. That's their agenda. They want to close, like most streets, to car traffic and everything else, right? And, they've been lobbying for years, and people are like, hey, whatever. But when COVID hit, when you talk about break the glass and pull out the scroll, when COVID hit, that was their opportunity. And that's where, during COVID, you saw, and some of these things still remain in different neighborhoods across the city where the street is closed, except for local traffic. their plan sat on the shelf for years and was looked over. But when the moment was there, they broke the glass and was like, oh, we have a plan. We need to block the streets. We need to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and that's what we should be doing with gun violence. We should have a plan in mind and just waiting for it to be implemented at the right time. And this is the right time. There's been a lot of right times, but I can't imagine there being not a righter time than right now. So, yes, please, there are people who want to help. There are people who are invested. Get together, get a plan together, tell the people of the city of Seattle clearly what the plan is and how it's going to impact their lives and change the trajectory of the violence in the city. And the other problem that I have, there's just a lot of people talking. You go to this press conference, there's like 5 deep. It was last night's, it was the governor and Representative Jayapal, and it's just like, how many more people? It's going on midnight, and I got I think we need to have more of a centralized message. Not everyone needs to be speaking on the mic. Just to designate one person to give all of the messaging. I know that you want to talk to the mayor and you want to talk to the police chief and you want to talk to other people, but it needs to be a little more controlled. There's just way too many voices, and sometimes the mayor and the chief or the deputy chief are not even on the same message, and they're standing right next to each other. And so there just seems to be a need for a lot of more communication, a lot of more collaboration. It seems sometimes that maybe this is a little bit oil and water, that the mayor's office, the police chief, the city council maybe don't love working with each other, and they kind of pull. Oh,
you think?
And it spills over, and it's you can see it from a public-facing perspective. All that animosity and nonsense needs to go away.
Yeah, I mean, for the benefit of the people, it definitely needs to go away. There's been lots of reporting from the beginning of the year that there's definitely some distance, if not tension, between the mayor's office and definitely the city council.
People's lives are at stake here. So, I mean, you got to put all that, squash it, what they used to say back in the 80s.
Squash the beef.
Squash the beef and move on, because, there's lives to be saved, there's work to be done, and, egos aren't going to help at this moment.
All right. We only got a few minutes left here, but I wanted to make sure and ask you, so what are you up to now? What do you got going on? What's next up?
Well, yesterday just changed everything, unfortunately. But I will say that, like everyone here in the city of Seattle, I just enjoyed tremendously the entire World Cup experience. I love seeing the people. I love the energy. I love the matches. I learned more about soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, in the month that I knew in my entire life, even knowing names of some of the players, and I could pronounce the ones on the French team pretty well as well. So I just love that, and it was just a great feeling to be here in the city. I think the city was a great host, and we all showed the best part of this place to the entire country. And it was just an honor to be a resident of the city of Seattle, as it has been since I've moved here. So, yeah, I'm still kind of riding that high, but yesterday definitely was a bring down.
Yeah, no, saying that. We had a good time during World Cup.
Did you go?
No, I gave all my tickets away.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're on the list. Way down there. But
I spent a lot of time in Pioneer Square watching it outside in Occidental, and just the energy and the love. It was amazing. And you feel like, oh, we can do this every year, but I mean, it's only special because it's only done every 4 years.
Right.
But you just don't want that to leave, that energy, that feeling. But it was great.
Right. Well, man, given your background in communications around, I know you got a background in all kinds of stuff, but the latest stop, you know what I'm saying, communication around this issue, well versed in it, man. I really appreciate you taking the time today. We had a bunch of other issues, but clearly this is the main topic, and you being here is very timely, and thankful for your time.
I appreciate you coming. I mean, I said this on the show, and now here. So anytime you need me, my friend, I'm here to chew up some scenery and talk to you. And I appreciate you bringing these important issues and these important perspectives to the people of King County.
All right, on. You've been listening here. That was Gregory Joseph, who political strategist and former communications director at the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, joined us today. Before we get out of here, a few notes. It's like, well, first and foremost, we want to encourage everybody to continue to support the Mother's Justice Show right here at 11:50 a.m. And also us over at Converge Media. You can go to whereweconverge.com. There's a little button there that says donate. You can support our mission of bringing news for us by us to the community in a hyper-focused way. Also, you can follow me on social media at Omari Sal, OMARISAL, and Converge Media at WWConverge, as in where we converge. Man, we'll keep you updated. I know, but when we meet again here on air, we're going to have a lot of information as about what's transpired. And, man, hopefully our elected officials and community members, law enforcement can actually find a way to come together, like Gregory Joseph talked about, on a route to safety for our community. Until then, though, getting ready to get out of here, I want to remind you to go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity, and until next week at 2 o'clock. Peace.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe